Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. It's been about a week since the last time we've taken a garden tour, so I'd love to take you around and check out what's happening. I'm a little bit tired right now. It's kind of getting towards the end of August, the end of the peak of the summer season, and it's been hot and muggy, and so it's been a little bit more difficult to keep up with some of my gardening tasks, but there's still some good stuff to see. So come with me as we do a tour, and if you're enjoying my channel right now, please give me a thumbs up on this video, subscribe, even hit that notification bell to get notified anytime a new video comes out. Let's stroll. Everything on my deck is doing really well right now. It's pretty low maintenance. I have this gorgeous canna that is blooming. I have my rosemary topiary behind it, and I have a small fig tree along with some wonderful strawberries that are excellent eating. We have recently, I'm just going to take a bite of the strawberry. We did recently just get rid of our groundhog. So congratulations to my husband on using some cantaloupe to catch the groundhog. We used a live trap, so it is safe and out in the wilderness again and far away so that it's not coming back or bothering anyone in their gardens. So this is the potager right now. It's looking very, very full. We have some lovely garden phlox. The coneflowers are still blooming, and the strawberries are about ready to take over this entire bed, I swear, underneath the sunflowers. I just picked some sweet red Marconi peppers, and some of the roses are flowering. I have to tell you, this combination of the bright yellow next to this dark 9-bark is incredibly stunning, and I had never used marigolds as cut flowers before, but they certainly work very well. I was actually quite surprised. My hydrangea over in this corner is starting to bloom, but it still has a ways to go, I think. Hopefully we'll put out some more blooms so that I can see them in that corner. I think that will just light it up when it is. My Nepeta Walker's Low that is along here is flowering again, so that looks nice. And over here in this bed, I dug up the Walker's Low Nepeta and I replaced it with one of my cat's meow Nepeta. So this is a smaller version, and it shouldn't be as leggy as the Walker's Low, so hopefully it won't take over this entire area. Rather, it will be a nice mound that will contrast well with both the Weigela as well as the barberry. I've slightly deadheaded some of these purple coneflowers. They are still splayed out a bit because they just had so much growth on them. I'm really enjoying the color on this Pinky Winky hydrangea. This is the first year that it's been in my garden, and I did move it earlier this year, so I think it's performing really quite well given the fact that it's the first year, and I even moved it over a little bit just to cover this heat pump that we use for our pool. The ultra pink phlox here is putting on some additional new buds, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of those blooms. I wasn't sure how prolific of a second bloom it would get, but if it's anything like this opening act Pinkadot phlox, I am expecting to have a nice show. I'm really very happy that I got all of the opening act phlox that I have. And I want to show you some of the berries that are starting to form on my coral berry bush here. So you can see right now they're green, but they'll turn a really beautiful pink that is very reminiscent of this purple coneflower. And just look how stunning that phlox looks there. This hydrangea is going to keep getting much larger over the years, and it still appears to be putting on some more buds. So I'm looking forward to it continuing to bloom for a while yet. One of my goals usually with my garden is to have things that are always blooming, something that always looks good. So hydrangeas do give you a pretty good long season during the summer all the way into the fall. And then you still get some of that bloom power if you let them dry on the stalks and leave them over the winter. These pulmonaria in this area, those clumps are just getting so big. They're beautiful. And those I just planted this year. So here's another smooth hydrangea. And those new blooms are doing quite well. And I think we're going to get some additional ones besides just those two in the front. And this area is looking really lush. I think the ferns and the pulmonaria and this 9-bark in this area are just really kind of a sublime, peaceful area. And my shade hanging baskets are still really doing a good job at maintaining. I don't fertilize these very frequently. I also don't water them probably as much as I should. So sometimes I find that they're very droopy and have to give them a good soaking, and then they come back. So it's pretty amazing the power of plants. I do want to take a couple minutes just to show you the dahlias on the back side of this bed, and then we'll take a look at the front side where the hibiscus are. These dahlias are simply beautiful. I love this color. I'm definitely going to save them. It's almost a velvety sheen on the leaves. And then my other favorite one here is this dahlia, which has been very good at keeping itself upright. Everything else was a little bit leggy. And my Wizard of Oz is putting on some nice new buds here, so I expect this to have a little more color probably by next week. So we'll come around this way to the front of this bed, and you'll see just right now I feel like this bed is a little bit more of a peak than most of the rest of my yard, because there's several things in this bed that peak later in the season, especially this hibiscus here. This is the evening rose hibiscus, and I just love the deep color of the foliage. And behind that we have the lavender chiffon hibiscus. And my 7 sunflower back here is finally starting to bloom. This is from the Tian Shan Mountains in China. That's where they found it. It smells amazing. It has very small white blooms when it does bloom, and each bud has 7 different tiny flowers. So hopefully you can see that. And this will grow probably about 12 feet tall. And so I'm growing it as a tree form in my yard, and plan to continue to keep it limbed up so that I can plant other flowers beneath it. That's one of my favorite things to do with shrubs, because of the fact that I have a pool and we don't want the shade from a full-size tree everywhere in the yard, but it is very nice to have that added height throughout the garden. So here's my new Pinky Winky, and it seems very happy in its new area. Be keeping an eye out on it to see if it does get some blooms. And my fence is still looking good since I painted it now. I do want to point out something to y'all. I've gotten a couple of questions about this and what is that flower back there. So there is a white phlox back here, but also behind it I have a metal wall hanging, and this is art. It's made out of, I think, brass, and I just placed it in the garden because I thought it was a really nice backdrop to the rhododendrons and other flowers and foliage that I had here, and I will just leave it out all winter because it's metal. I'm okay if it rusts a little bit. I just think it looks pretty. It's fairly inexpensive to find them at garage sales or when people decide it's something that they don't want on their wall anymore. For $10 or $15, you can really get a nice piece of art to put in your garden. So this path has really filled out for me. All of my divisions are doing well. These Hydrangea, they will stay evergreen pretty much all year. So that's a nice thing to have in the garden. And you can see that some of my large standard hostas here are starting to put on their beautiful white flowers, which are incredibly fragrant. They smell absolutely wonderful. It just reminds me of being a kid and being in Florida in the summertime or on spring break, when they have some of the blooms happening there that smell like oranges or jasmine or honeysuckle. So this ultra pink phlox that I have here is also putting on a ton of new buds. And that, with the backdrop of this gorgeous giant aster, is going to be awesome. You can see the other ultra pink right there. I think I had bought 4 ultra pink phlox. I can't remember the exact amount, but by the time that I divided them, I probably have about 7 of them, I think, placed throughout the garden. This Grandma's Blessing Rose is gorgeous to me right now. I'm loving the color of it. I'm so glad I got this one. It's very difficult sometimes when you buy plants on clearance because they may not have any blooms and you're going by the picture that's on the tag, and the tag pictures are not always the exact same color of the plants that you might buy when they actually come out in person. For example, the Wizard of Oz Veronica that I got recently, the tag looked very blue and dark purple, but the blooms actually look more of a fuchsia or pink to me. I'm loving how this Aurelia just pops out amongst the hostas here. And I had several June hostas that I divided throughout here that are already beginning to fill in pretty nicely. I had some geraniums that were right here that I pulled out so that I could try to make this more of just a hosta bed along with the grass and the Aurelia. Because while I like the geraniums, I've just been using it in this bed as a filler. And so I did leave a few in under these leaves. And they're semi-evergreen, so hostas tend to come up a little bit later. And those geraniums really give a little bit of greenery when you might not otherwise have it here in Zone 5B. We have winter for a good 6 months of the year. This lamium is still flowering. This one pretty much blooms all summer. It's an excellent ground cover, but I will say it does get fairly aggressive. It is easy to pull. It will readily self-seed throughout your yard. So depending on what you want it for, it could be great or it could be something that you really don't enjoy having. I'm really enjoying the colors in this bed now that we have these heucheras in here, along with these blue and yellow hostas. These are the autumn frost ones. Just look at all those colors right there. Wow. I mean, look what you can do with foliage that, you know, without even having flowers and it being in the shade. People oftentimes struggle with finding flowers for the shade, but if you think about creating bouquets of foliage and using the colors of the foliage, it can be stunning. I personally really enjoy this area right now and how it's come along. And I know I've told you before that I'm planning to do a garden evolution series where I talk a little bit about the history of my garden for what it's worth for the last 15 years that I've lived here and how it's changed over time and what I've done with it. And I'll try to section out some of the different areas and talk a little bit about those. So those will be forthcoming. This here is the Mucdenia. This is primarily a foliage plant. I broke it down through division into 4 separate plants. You can see one over here and then 3 here to try to make this as an edging plant. And I'm very hopeful that will help to fill out this corner because it says it does well in part sun or part shade. So this corner gets some varied light, which makes it hard to plant, and I'm thinking that plant will do well here. This is where I chose to plant my storm shelter daylilies. I have 2 of them here, and then I have some others in another place. And these are the Rhythm of My Heart daylilies. I think that's what those are called. I may be getting that slightly wrong. So that should provide a nice pop of color. And these little lime hydrangeas, I'm still getting a few more of the panicles blooming. So they're not done yet in terms of putting out fresh blooms. And I'm absolutely loving them. It's been a wonderful addition to have at the corner of the pool there. I'm really looking forward to the height that this Rose of Sharon and the Redbud are going to bring to this area, along with the Weigela here in front. And then I do have the You Glow Girl Birchleaf Spirea in the back there that has the Roseanne geranium growing up over it. It's a nice way to just kind of deal with that rather rangy, gangly growth that I sometimes get out of the geraniums in my area. Kind of like a little peekaboo up over the top of the shrub. My butterfly bushes are really looking good, and I'm absolutely adoring the color of these Pugster blue ones. That's definitely my favorite. I think we're getting ready to get some buds on this climbing rose back here. This is the Eden climbing rose, and you can see all that new growth, all that red. Now over here I have laid a little bit of fresh mulch along the top because it was looking a little bit bedraggled and thought it might benefit from a little topping off before the fall comes. I may add more later. I'm definitely really happy with this combo of the viburnum and this holly back here. I don't know if I'm going to get any berries on the holly this year or not. This is its first full summer in my garden. But I am looking forward to having that addition to the evergreen in the wintertime. And this is a mum between these 2 barberries, and it is absolutely just pushing out the growth right now. So it's definitely getting ready to put all of its power into some blooms. I'm starting to actually get excited for fall rather than wanting the summer to continue forever. Spirea is looking pretty with its red new foliage that goes really well with all of these heucheras over here. Now, I don't know about you all, but during the recent storms that we've had, rainstorms, I believe this is a vanilla strawberry hydrangea, got incredibly flappy. So I have temporarily used some of this Velcro tape that I have that you can hardly see to hold the stems together. That just kind of gives it enough support to keep all of the blooms up and off of the ground and still looking gorgeous for a longer period of time. I will not leave it on for too long because it can damage the trunks of the hydrangeas, but it should be fine for the next month. And by the time I take it off, the wood may harden up a little bit to help support those blooms. Over here, I bought some liriope. This was also on sale, and so I decided to edge this bed with it on both sides along the rocks because I wanted something that would kind of spill over the edges. And this is sort of a semi-evergreen in my area, and those will grow small clumps. I purchased 4 of those and actually divided them into all that you see here. Liriope is incredibly tough, and it has some cute blooms in the fall. You can see my penstemon over here is putting on a second flush of blooms. Now let's look over at the new little sedum garden that I have going over here. This is what I did with most of my clearance sedums, and I got a couple more. I got these right here, which are cobweb. That's what a lot of people call them because they look like they have cobwebs on them. It's part of the sempervivens family, and they're both pushing out some really cute blooms. And then we have these that are from the Sun Sparkler Zinger collection that I got. And they're all doing really well and getting ready to put out some flowers. In fact, this one down here is actually starting to flower, you can see. So they're going to be pretty pink blooms along the edge of the bricks here. Now you may recall I got some of these cute ground cover geraniums. They seem to be really happy in their new space here. And here are some blooms on the liriope. See those cute lavender purple blooms? I just really think those are gorgeous, especially when you have them planted in groupings. And I want to show you my flax over here because this is an excellent second showing. I mean, wow. I didn't think that flax could bloom so prolifically twice a year, but they can. And then next to that is my Italian aster, which has really opened up this last week. And it's a very blue purple color and just covered in buds. And then this beard stung penstemon is also reblooming again, which is this deep, gorgeous purple. Now over here is where I planted my other storm shelter daylilies. I have a couple of them right here in this corner. And that's where I removed the other cat's meow nepeta because I have one right here. And I think that this will provide more of a camouflage for the area behind the mock orange here. And I do want to show you also my spireas. These are the superstar spireas that I got on clearance. And you can see every place that I trimmed them back, they have gorgeous new growth coming along. That is sort of a tinged burgundy, reddish purple. And the same goes for this one over here. And this one is even starting to put on some buds. Over here, my Mr. Goodbud is starting to bloom. Look at how gorgeous that is. I love it. And I'm getting another bloom on this salvia. And this is my quick fire hydrangea that's still going strong and just looking gorgeous. I love the color of the blooms this year. It has done quite well. And then over here, I've planted my raspberries. I got this pot at Home Depot. It was on clearance, and I thought this was a great way to put them up against something that was warm. Oh my goodness, we have nature happening here, guys. Is this little teeny tiny spider trying to eat this giant bumblebee? Can you see that? Whoa, that is crazy. Wow. Okay, I have a sedum that's blooming right here. That definitely means fall is coming. This is one of the proven winners. I believe this one is the Pure Joy. And then the heuchera that I planted over here are looking really good. Those are the spearmint ones. I'd like to get something planted back in the back corner behind this trellis as well at some point. Okay, so here's my Bobo hydrangea. And isn't this cool, the way the geranium's coming up through those blooms along with the impatient that's underneath of it? That's so pretty. Over here, everything's still growing on, just doing its thing. So the purple coneflower is now slowing down. I've deadheaded some of it. I haven't deadheaded all of it. I thought I would leave some and come back for more later. There really are a lot of them to deadhead, and I don't mind leaving some for nature. But here's my mums. Look at those. Really starting to bloom now that the coneflowers are out of the way. And those mums, you'll see they're all within here and back in here, over here. So pretty soon this bed will be a profusion of new blooms that are a whole different kind of plant. And then within here as well, we have some asters tucked in that have buds all over them and are just starting to peek through with some blooms. And oddly enough, I'm seeing a whole bunch of new buds on my Maynite salvia, so I'm actually wondering if I might get another set of blooms out of those yet this year. Can hardly imagine. In this garden bed is where I planted the scaviola, the fan flower. So you can see the ones I planted earlier this year on this side, which is more dense, and then this one is the one that I just planted. And then I did the same thing and repeated that over on this side. So you can see the one that's been here and then the new one. And they're doing really well. I think they're going to take to those spots quite magnificently. And the angelonia in this bed, along with the salvia, this annual salvia right here, all of those are really contributing to this garden bed today. Oh, I have a poppy that just bloomed. Look at that one. These are the champagne bubbles variety. And the roses that I transplanted out here, that are right here and here, they do have quite a bit of growth that has turned brown and has dried up, but that growth is now past that stage, and anything that's on there that's green now I think is going to remain green because they really seem to have taken to this spot. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this bed. My garden is still bringing me just a lot of joy this year. Now in this bed you can really see the geraniums that I bought, the hot pink ones standing out from the crowd and glowing. It's amazingly bright. Just look at those blooms. And then I planted the angelonia that I got on clearance. Here's the purple one and the pink one. And then I did the exact same thing on the other side here with the pink one and the purple one. And you can see, look at all of the new growth on my Bobo hydrangea, guys. And the bloom. They're doing quite well. I'm very happy with how well they've adapted. And the front of this bed is still looking great. I like the cone flowers with the sedum and the ferns and the hostas all mixed together here. And you can see my Bobos on the other side here are looking great as well. Now these were the ones that I got half price. So they were both $12.50 each, but they are starting to bloom quite well. I can't see them as well as I would like to from my house because they are not taller than the mums. My mums have shot up. They are literally a couple feet tall, and they are going to be really putting out some blooms here shortly. You can start to see the buds changing color. So this whole swath is mums of the same color, and will make a beautiful ring on this side of the tree. Everything's looking great from this side as well. Now these mums right here, they're like an orange color, so that will provide some excellent contrast as well to the kind of purplish pink color that we have everywhere else. I'm real quick going to show you, I got a couple of new planters up by the house here, and they're the square ones at the base. And I got 2 sweet potato vines to put in with my bedazzled hostas, and I think those just kind of help to clean up the area and make it look a little bit more polished. It still doesn't look great. I pulled the tuberous begonias out of here because I thought they just didn't look fantastic, and threw some of the coleus in there, and so that's kind of where that's at. Now over here I have an interesting find that I got on clearance. This is a samurai lungwort pulmonaria. So I got this at my local nursery. They oftentimes have so many different varieties compared to when you go to a big box store. So that was a really cool find. This aster right here is going to be pink, and I love this one. Absolutely adore the way that it looks when it comes out. So looking forward to seeing that bloom. And all of my hostas are doing pretty good because we've had such late rains for the summer season. I did have to cut a couple of branches off of my Japanese maple just this last week because I had noticed that they weren't doing that well this spring, and they never really recovered, so I decided it was time to get rid of them. I just kind of wanted to wait and see how they did. They did not appear to be coming back at all. So in this area with the green and the blues and the mild yellows, just to me speaks tranquility. And you guys, my air conditioning is on, so please bear with me with the sound, but I just want to show you. Finally cleaned up this bed. Doesn't it look magnificent? I'm so pleased that I finally got around to deadheading those hostas. Well, thanks for joining me on my garden tour today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We'll see you next time. Bye!